call them, it's our story. And it's never too late to change your story, and to have some fun with it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's deep work. Like RTT is deep and we go deep quickly. So if we can bring some lightness with it, some play with it, I feel like healing is a lot and it's heavy. And if we can also bring that lightness as well, oh, it just really helps the experience, right? And the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Good morning. This is Tricia Chandler with Metamorphosis Moments, the interview series. And today I am with Rapid Transformational Therapist and Clinical Hypnotherapist, Emma Heywood. And Emma is in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle specifically, and she works a lot with sports performance and athletes in her practice, as well as other areas. So I'm really excited to talk with you today, Emma, and welcome to my chat.
Yay, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really great to have you. Um, a big part of what these conversations are about is exploring what different therapists and coaches work with and what kinds of presenting problems come up in your practice and how you work through those with your clients in your own unique way. And it's just such a phenomenal thing to work with rapid transformational therapy because it has such broad application and each individual practitioner has their own spin on it and how it functions. So would you like to tell me a little more about what you do?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I agree. RTT is so unique, and yet it's through the vessel of each therapist and how, we're moving with the technique and the method. And in my practice, I really like to present it as a whole experience for my clients. And all my clients are different, but I really want to take them on a journey. And I forgot to mention this to you before, but I also have a background in acting and performance. And so
Hmm.
I love playing in creativity and I love playing in the imagination. So already before we get into therapy, we do some kind of playful coaching where, we play in the imagination because the subconscious mind is the imagination. The subconscious, as you know, doesn't understand the difference between a real or an imagined event. And so already before we kind of get into therapy, just to share with my clients the power of the mind and the power of their own suggestions and the power of their own imagination, we start changing the brain. We start playing with mental and emotional rehearsal, knowing how they can change their feelings and move into their ideal state through some fun exercises that I usually begin with on the intake call
Mm-hmm.
with my clients.
So what does that look like?
Yeah, there's different things. So again, my background in acting, and also I work with, as you said, sports performance and athletes, knowing that we can actually create our ideal state. And so whether we do it more actively or kind of do some, just close your eyes and visualize and literally, how do you want to feel? How do you want to be? What is your ideal performance? And then literally step into it or float into it
Hmm.
or catch certain feelings that you want. Okay, so it's like, how do you want to feel as you're walking on the court? Well, I want to feel confident. I want to feel in my body. I want to feel, full of belief or whatever it may be. And I say, great. Okay, so how do you know when you're feeling like that? They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, how do you know when you're feeling confident? They're like, oh, well, maybe I'm just, my shoulders are down or I'm breathing calmly or my head is up or whatever things, because the subconscious, the body, same thing. And so I say, great, let's call that in right now. Let's call in that confidence. Let's call in that belief and invite it into your body and feel it land. Notice the difference of when you're feeling that confidence, that calmness, that whatever it may be. And now we're going to pretend that you're walking on court. So sometimes I literally get up with them and it's like, let's actually pretend we're walking on court right now, or just have them close their eyes and visualize that and go through the motions, go through your whole performance, and I'll even guide them. Okay, there's adversity. You lost that point, or you lost that. I work with tennis a lot. So you lost that game or you lost that point. How are you going to respond now instead of wallowing in something? How are we going to reset and refocus certain anchors, certain positive statements to kind of, teaching them again, power of their thoughts,
Mhm.
power of their mind, but also imagery. And so, okay, your body language is everything, and your opponent is seeing that. So, maybe you can't help your body language, but if we take an image and put it into your body, it's like, okay, if I had a gold medal in my chest, I would walk very differently if I had a gold medal in my chest than if I had, something, just something worse. Um, so a lot of playing around, a lot of teaching them different exercises, again, power of the mind, the power of visualization, and
Amazing.
yeah, and to make it fun and to make it light. And I do those kinds of exercises also with clients who aren't athletes, because again, I think we're all the main character of our life. We're all in the performance of our life, and we can
Mhm.
redirect, as with subconscious beliefs, I like to call them, it's our story, and it's never too late to change your story, and to have some fun with it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's deep work. Like RTT is deep, and we go deep quickly. So if we can bring some lightness with it, some play with it, I feel like healing is a lot and it's heavy. And if we can also bring that lightness as well, oh, it just really helps the experience, right? And the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I really love how you're talking about that and you're enabling them to embody that feeling and to imagine it for themselves, right? And a
Mhm.
lot of it is that ability, especially if you start talking about things like manifesting. And then that's when sometimes clients' eyes will just kind of glaze over and they think, oh my God, what is she talking about? But it's really just that. It's that ability to play with your own reality, to imagine what your future could be, and to like project yourself into that, step into that. And it's, yeah, it's really important to be able to do that. If you can't see it for yourself, you can't imagine it,
Mhm.
then how is it going to happen?
Exactly. Exactly. And sometimes, my clients will say, well, okay, I'm visualizing it. It hasn't happened yet. I'm like, yeah, but, some things take time. And I always say as well, only thing you ever have control over is you and how you respond,
Right.
right? That's it. And so I often will say, well, which one just feels better? I suck. I'm going to lose. I can't do this. No
Mm-hmm.
your body when you say that, or
Right.
I got this. I believe in myself. Okay, letting that go. Next point, next moment, right? It's as simple as that. Which one literally just feels better to you,
Right.
you know? And
Yeah, I mean, you can choose your reality. You can choose. I mean, if you're given the choice in your day to feel happy or to feel angry, which one feels better? So why would you choose to feel angry? I mean, yeah,
because
you're going to get pissed off in your day-to-day life from time to time about certain things, and it's fine to be, upset about it. But do you carry that with you all day? Because then that colors your entire day, right? And it makes you go to the grocery store and then you stub your toe when you get out of the car, you lose your car keys, maybe you dropped your phone in a puddle, you get home and the bananas you bought are rotten. And it's
Mhm.
because you're in this weird headspace, right? Whereas if you're like, okay, that happened, that sucked. I'm going to shake it off and I'm going to choose to be positive. And now you have a very different experience after you leave work and you go to the grocery store and things go a lot smoother, right? So why would you choose to have that other experience? Because that just further like impacts you in a negative way.
So true. Yeah, the only thing that changed, when you're having a bad day, everything's bad. People suck. There's so much traffic, whatever it is, everything's bad.
Yeah.
If you're having a good day, the same things could be happening. It could be pouring rain and so much traffic, but you're in a good mood, so you don't even notice it in
Yeah.
the same way. And the only thing that changed was your emotional state,
Mhm.
right? And I think people sometimes don't realize the power that they have, or they want to stay in that, like, I just want to complain. I just want to be in it. And I want you to feel your feelings. That's the point.
Mhm.
I don't want you to get
That's
stuck
the
in
thing. You don't live in them. You feel
that.
them, you express them, you let them go, right?
Exactly. And giving, often I'll say to my clients, put a timer on 5 minutes, 10 minutes, do what you need to do to feel the anger, the sadness.
Go stomp your feet, scream, beat the wall, whatever.
Exactly.
Get it out. I know I
Mhm.
have this conversation with my youngest, who is a salesperson, and so he's doing sales, and we'll sit and have dinner some nights, and he'll tell me, "Oh my God, this lady came into my office today, and she was just ranting about this, that, the other thing." And I'll say to him, "Honey, it probably has very little to do with her dissatisfaction with you or your product or whatever. You have to realize that when people react these ways in this extreme, like she was so horrible to me kind of way,
Mhm.
it probably has nothing to do with you or anything else, like it's something else in her day that created this mindset for her, right? And so she's lashing out at anybody that comes in front of her. And if you see it that way, then you will cope with it in a much different manner.
Mhm. Most of the time, I don't know if you read that book, The Four Agreements, but one of the four agreements is don't take anything personally.
Yeah,
And I say
it's
that
not
to
about
myself
you.
every day. Yeah, it's not about you. People are always operating from their current state. And then when you know that, you're like, oh, that's good. I can let that go. I don't have to take anything on.
Mhm.
And like I'm not saying it's easy. Sometimes it's hard to get yourself out if you're having a bad day or having a bad season, like that's
Yeah.
very common. And I was saying to a friend the other day, I think, and we were talking about this, that self-worth, is for me with clients is like the number one core wound I see and that we work on is just low self-worth. And I think what you believe you're worthy of, you'll call in whatever that is. And I was saying to my friend, and this is like I say this to clients too, is the ultimate task of life, in my opinion, is to not let your external circumstances dictate your internal experience. Because it's so easy to be like, even my clients, the athletes, I lost that game, I lost this, I suck, I can't do that. It's like, okay, are you going to stay in that? Or are you going to pick yourself back up?
Right.
Or if you don't get the job or the person breaks up with you or
Mhm.
whatever it might be, are you going to let those external circumstances dictate your internal experience? Because that's a very
Right.
dangerous way to live,
Yeah.
right? The whole
Right.
entire sense of self is based on the external, but knowing
Right.
that we always have the power, like the only thing we have control over is our internal state, is us. And to me, I'm like, oh, that's freedom. That's total freedom.
Mhm.
I have to, I know who I am. I
Yeah.
know who I believe in myself. I don't have to listen to the
Yeah.
external world.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. And that old statement of it's none of your business what other people think of you.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, okay, I have
Yeah.
no control over what you think of me.
Yep.
All I can do is be true to myself, and it only really matters what I think of me. So, if I conduct myself in a way that feels good, then the rest of it doesn't matter to me, doesn't matter, does not matter. And I talk about that a lot with my narcissistic abuse clients because so much of their existence, they see themselves through their abuser's lens, and they've been told for so long that they're not worth loving, they're just not enough, and that's really what they believe because somebody else has made them feel that way for so long. And they don't almost it's almost like they don't see themselves as a separate person. And I know when I was coming out of that myself, I believed that if he didn't want me, then nobody would, and it just wasn't worth being around anymore. So once you can kind of see that in a different light and recognize that your existence isn't reliant upon somebody else's opinion of you, regardless of who you are and what you've experienced, it only matters your reality is right here between your ears,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that's all that really matters.
Oh,
Yeah.
100. And it's not, I'm not saying it's easy. Like I still struggle with these moments, but the difference is because of the work I've done and the RTT I've done, therapy I've done, coaching I've done, I don't get stuck in those moments, right? They
Right.
may come up. We're human, but I don't get stuck in it. I come back home to the truth of who I am much faster. And that's what I love about RTT is
Love
it's like,
that.
yeah, we go on a journey in RTT, and once you've done enough, and I've done a lot of sessions with, with my colleagues, once you've done enough, it's like again, it's making those unconscious patterns conscious. So I can say,
Mhm.
oh, I see why
Yeah.
I'm reacting this way now. I don't have to do that. That's little Emma, or that's teenage Emma, and I
Mhm.
can give teenage Emma the love, or the love that she needed and the safety that she needed in that moment. So
Yeah.
that's what we mean about knowing where it comes from and being able to reparent yourself,
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I had a really tough time in high school with friends and bullied and those moments I'm like, okay, I'm not how the bully sees me and I don't have to hold on to those things. Like I get to treat myself with the love and respect that I didn't get, and it's never
Right.
too late to do that. It's never
It's
too late.
never too late. And you take action every day, even if it's imperfect, and
Mhm.
that's okay. Because it's not like if you fall off the wagon of whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it be you're trying to get over a bad habit, you're trying to build a new life, whatever it is, you screwed it up. Okay. So tomorrow you try again and you'll do differently and you learn from your mistakes and you move forward.
It's
It's
so
really, it's really kind of freeing and liberating when you can recognize that your reality is controlled only by you. Certainly other people are characters in your story and they, come in and out of you, but your reality is directed by you and your experience and your beliefs about yourself and how you operate.
exactly. It's that. It's that. And like I was saying before, it's never too late to change your story. It's never too late.
Yeah.
But you also have to say to yourself, I'm worth it. I'm
Mhm.
worth it to change my story. And I find a lot of times people are nervous to go back, but I always say, like, it's the most liberating experience
It
to go
is.
back and to understand where these blocks and where these wounds came from. And in sessions, it's the part where people, I'd say 95% of the time, cry is when we do that inner child work and we bring, their child and we upgrade them into who they are, upgrading them into their life today. And every time they cry, because it's like, oh, that's what was missing,
Yeah.
like how can we meet my little self's needs now? And it's never too late to meet their needs. It's never too late.
Never too late.
Yeah. And
Really beautiful.
yeah, I was talking to a client a few weeks ago and we worked on this thing last year and we're still in touch, right? Like we friends and clients and client, I call them sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah, because it kind of becomes that. And she was like, I had a bit of a dip with this thing we worked on. She went back to the recording I made for her and she's like, wow, I only had to listen to it 3 times. She thought she would have to go through 21 days again to kind of get back on track. But she's like, whoa, it's like I fell right back into place. And it's like, yeah, because we did that work already. That it's okay to have dips in life. But
Yeah.
when you set again, it's a lot easier because your subconscious has already like accepted that new way of being.
Hmm.
It's like life, what's that quote? I forget who says it, but life is a stream of well-being, and so moments we can dip out of the stream, but we're always coming right back into the stream.
And that's normal. That's absolutely normal. And I have clients who, they really struggle with that sense of deviating from that stream. And if they fall out of the stream, then immediately everything's all bad and it's a crisis. And then we have this whole, tailspin where they freak out and like, oh my God, I'm not getting better. It's not working. And like, no, we've done this work. You are aimed in the right direction, but sometimes you'll hop out of the stream and you'll go on an adventure. And then we just have to draw you back into the stream and then you will carry on down. And it's really that beautiful and that simple. And it's okay to take side journeys.
Human, I always say life is gonna life,
Mm, yeah.
and okay, it's normal, but it's how are you showing up for yourself? How are you, letting yourself feel the icky feelings?
Hmm.
I don't even like to think feelings are good or bad, I think
They just
I,
are.
they just are, exactly, they just are. And actually, when you give them the attention that they're craving, then they can move through you. I remember months ago, I was working through some like stuck shame that I was still dealing with. And the healer I was working with was like, oh, it's here. And I'm like, okay, let's go there. I'm always like, let's go there. Let's lean into it. Let's go into the
Yeah.
shame. When I really gave it the
Let's
proper.
play with that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What is it here? Why is it here? What is it trying to tell me? And I had such relief from it, from understanding it and then understanding all these different parts to it and saying, oh, wait, actually, it's not just it's shame, it's power. And I transformed it. And I've been feeling
Mm.
a different person ever
And maybe
since.
the shame felt like it didn't have power or something. And then when you transform it into what it truly should be, then it feels a lot more comfortable. It's almost like that feeling of shame was masquerading as something, but that's not even what it was. So it wasn't even living in its authentic identity,
It's so
right?
true. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so good. That's so
Yeah.
good. And it just
So
came from showing up for it, right?
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think, and I find this especially with male clients. I think culturally we tend to, have men and boys, they're taught, boys don't cry, we don't talk about feelings, and men are very uncomfortable with expressing their emotions to the point where they often don't even fully know how they feel.
Yes.
They're so out of touch with their own emotions, and they struggle a lot with that. And so, for decades, you'll have a man with this problem, and then he's been swallowing his feelings for so long and not even being able to identify them. I think that's the best thing you can do with a young child, is to help them identify their feelings and go, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling rage, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling lonely, and to help them identify those and then work through them so that, when it happens again later in life as an adult, because it does,
Yeah.
um, then you'll know how to deal with it and how to cope with it, rather than, taking your feelings out on somebody else, or punching the wall, or being destructive, or getting into trouble, or whatever the thing is that this person does. And it's usually from this squelched feelings of emotions that were never expressed. And then they start having, physical problems from holding their feelings back for so long: rashes, infections, autoimmune, heart disease, all the things, right? And a lot of it just stems from not allowing themselves to be themselves authentically and to feel their feelings and to learn the healthy coping mechanism. Stress is a huge one, especially with men.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's got a lot of stress, but men in particular. And I think it's predominantly because they don't express their feelings, they don't deal with it.
My favorite line that Marissa says is, the feeling that cannot be expressed in tears will cause other organs to weep. And yeah, and when I work on with men or with, physical issues, I'm like, oh, there's something so much deeper here. And I love what you said about identifying feelings. When I work with some teenage athletes, so much of what I'm doing with them is helping them identify what the feelings are, because they'll just be like, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm fine. I'm like, no, there's other things going on below the surface here. And I know it because when a tough moment happens on court and you throw your racket, or you throw what I call an adult temper tantrum, there's something way below the surface, right? There's doubt, there's fear, there's insecurity, there's anxiety, whatever it is. And so we have to give yourself a space off court to be in your feelings, to let them flow, so that you're actually then more in control on court. Let's get out of control off court,
Right, right.
be in control on
Yeah,
court.
where it's appropriate. I mean, that makes me think of, you're younger than me, but if you remember John McEnroe, he was
Oh
famous
yeah.
for, smashing rackets and throwing these really obnoxious snits out on the court, to the point where he just looked like a giant man baby out there. But that was his persona, that,
Yeah.
yeah. So, is that productive? No. And it was almost like this showmanship, I think sometimes he engaged in, but I do think that was his authentic behavior.
Also, though, if a woman did that, I don't think it would have the same kind of response.
No, they would be like, she's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she must be on her period.
Yeah, exactly. And I say to them, I'm like, do you want to be known for that? Do you want to be known for, I'm not saying to be perfect in every single moment. I know frustrations happen, but release it in a, constructive way.
Yeah.
Don't have a temper tantrum, but just go, and like I give them different kind of techniques and tools to let the feeling go. And then as soon as you let it go, then come back to the next moment. Because if you don't let it go, you're just bringing that energy with you that's going to keep influencing you. And,
Right.
whatever you focus on, you're going to get more of it. If you're focusing on everything going wrong, what do you think will happen? Like, again, this is for athletes and or not,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
just human. They're just
Well,
experiencing
and
life.
it's all of that self-talk that comes into play. God, I'm such a loser. Oh my gosh, I am so stupid. I always screw everything up. And
Mhm.
that kind of negative self-talk is what, feeds into all of these behaviors. And the favorite behavior feeds that self-talk, the self-talk feeds the behavior. And it's a
Exactly.
loop. So you
Yep.
get in this stuck in this feedback loop of garbage. And so of course that's how you perform in your day, whether it be sports or, career or whatever. And that's how you perform. So doesn't it make sense that you perform this way if that's the loop that's running in your brain on repeat all the time? And I like to tell my clients, talk to yourself like you are a 5-year-old child. And
Yes.
would you say those things that you just told me you say to yourself if you were talking to a 5-year-old? Well, no, I would never tell a 5-year-old they're stupid. Well, okay, so why do you tell yourself that? Um, let's think about that, so talk to yourself like you are that 5-year-old, because that's who you're dealing with. That's that inner child that's acting out, that's feeling, insecure or unworthy or whatever you're feeling. That's that child in you that's having that reaction. And so now you're talking to that child like that,
Mhm.
right? So let's
Exactly.
change the way we talk to ourselves, first off, to set this kind of footing for better production in your life. And then we can go from there
Oh,
and see
totally.
what's
It really,
changed. Yeah, it changes your reaction to things. It changes the way you feel about yourself.
it's so true. And I find it's interesting too that people get so addicted to the negative
Mhm.
self-talk. And, we live in a world that's, okay, believe in yourself, but not too much. Don't be a show off, don't brag, be humble. And I'm like, it's your mind. Talk, like, hype yourself up.
Yeah.
It's almost like cool to not love yourself or cool to not
Mhm.
speak highly of yourself.
When you go into, say, a store or something, you're the doctor's office, wherever, and you walk up to the clerk, and they'll say, "How are you today?" And you just say, "Fine," and that's the programmed response. Well, they don't really care how you feel, um, and you don't really care to talk about it. You're just like, "I'm fine. How are you?" Okay, and it's this like politeness that we exhibit, but it's not real. And
Yeah.
when I was kind of coming out of the depths of my own depression, I started this behavior, and I still do it to this day. And it's this silly thing I do. Um, Maybe I'm at the store, I'm at Target or whatever, and you're the cashier, and they say, "How are you today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm doing really good. I did a great job today." And then I'll tell them something I did that was really good. And they look at me first like I'm a little bit crazy. And then we laugh, and then I'll say, "Tell me something great you did today."
I love that.
And then
I,
they'll go, "Oh," and then they'll giggle, and then they'll go, "Well," and then they'll come up with something. And I'll say, "Good job." And I like high five them or something. And then we
you know
leave the
what? I love
interaction.
that.
Yeah. And then we leave the interaction. Everybody's kind of giggling because it was this silly little exchange. But what it does is it makes that person feel good. It
See,
made me feel good because I made somebody feel good. And I got to tell somebody something I did to, and like, "Hey, I got out of my car without tripping today." I mean, it could be something so silly like that. Maybe nothing good has gone my way today. And instead of being an asshole to the person at Target, I go, "Hey, I didn't trip when I got out of my car today. That was awesome. What'd you do today? That was really good." And then, everybody laughs.
I love that. Do you mind? Can I steal that? I love that. That's amazing. That's
Just
amazing. And
something silly I do.
yeah,
And
but
feel free.
it's so true. We're all kind of in this, literally kind of this like we're asleep.
Yeah, you're a zombie just going through
All
your day.
zombies. Yeah. And it's like, and even I don't do that, but I'll always be honest. If they're like, "How are you?" I'm like, "I'm great." I'm like, "You know what? Not having that great of a day." Like I'm always trying to be
Mhm.
honest as I can. But what that's doing is giving us permission to be real and be authentic.
Yeah.
And we're giving that authenticity and to remind people. And I say this to my clients, like those small moments are actually the big moments,
Yeah.
like
Because it
the
sets the stage for how you feel and operate in your day, right?
it's like those small everyday moments that actually are our life, that make up our life. And how can you tap into, and even after with my athlete clients, whether they win or lose, I have them always answer these two questions. What did I do well? And what do I get to do better next time? Or what do I get to
Mhm.
keep improving? So it's not saying, what did I do wrong? What did I fail? It's like always starting with what I did well. And then what do I get to keep growing in? And I ask myself those questions at the end of my day.
Yeah.
I get to keep expanding and learning, but making it with a positive energy rather than you suck, you fail, you didn't do this,
Yeah.
or you're
Yeah. Yeah.
ever. And it's just those slight changes in let's acknowledge the good moments. Let's acknowledge the positivity. I
It's
love
really a beautiful thing when you can do that. And it just changes the way you feel throughout the day. It really does. You know,
it. It's so true.
I
And
just
just
love
know
it.
that we all have the power to do this. And I say to my clients too, it might be uncomfortable at first, but and unfamiliar, right? Might be unfamiliar, but everything at one point was unfamiliar. And so you can, if you dedicate, repeat, repetition is the language of belief. If you dedicate and repeat consistently, you're gonna change. You're
Mhm.
gonna change. You ready for it though,
Yeah.
or are you starting to stay in this addiction of woe is me, life is hard, I can support you I can't force you to get out of that. I'm not the one in your mind and your body. Like, I'm here to support
No.
you, but you got to want to
Yeah.
change.
And it's exhausting, especially in coaching, if you're dealing with a person that's chronically in that negative headspace. And I always like to, when these negative beliefs come up, I always say, oh, that's a negative belief. And it feels like with some clients, every sentence out of their mouth, I'm like, that's a negative belief. Let's reframe that and get out your journal and write this down. So whatever the thing is you said, then let's reframe that. How would we say that? And I mean, I have some clients that have like entire spiral notebooks just full of these things. And it's exhausting. But over time, I eventually then start seeing them change that up, and they stop themselves. First, they'll stop themselves. When it starts to happen, they recognize it, which is huge progress. And then little by little, I interject less and less and less into that conversation, because they're beginning to think, positively. And even doing something as simple as like a gratitude journal is really helpful to encourage people to go into that positive, instead of constantly dwelling on, God, my life sucks. I'm terrible at this, and everything I do goes to shit. I mean, let's just stop. Okay, so let's say your life is shit. There's nothing good going on here. Let's say it is. But let's figure out how we can be grateful for the things that aren't, right? So maybe it's just that simple action of stopping to think about it twice a day and write it down. And maybe the whole day was absolute crap. And you could say, I'm thankful I have a place to live. I'm thankful for clean sheets.
Clean
Um,
water.
I'm thankful that my electric bill is getting turned back on tomorrow, even though it was turned off today. I am thankful, so maybe it's just really small things that you can, recognize. I'm thankful that my dog, is here with me. I'm thankful that, my friend had this great thing happen, whatever. I'm grateful for my friends. Yeah. So recognizing those positives, and then that kind of retrains the brain. And I find that over time, it really helps people begin to think positively.
I know. And even what I was kind of explaining in the beginning of moving yourself into your ideal state, start your day. Because, we wake up and the subconscious, it's so automatic, it's always going to replay what's been on the loop, right? So
Right.
you wake up every day, I'm tired, I don't want to go to work, it's going to be such a long day, I don't want to go to that meeting, whatever it is, it's like you have to direct the mind, direct the subconscious
Yes. Yes.
to go. And so just that simple question I have people ask is, how do I want to feel? Or how do I want to be? Okay, well, I want to feel calm, confident, excited, at peace, whatever it is. Okay, how do you know when you're feeling that? And then literally just call it in and be it and practice it and embody it. And it's so
Yeah.
simple,
Yeah.
but you have to do it. You have to want it.
Well, and I think the other thing that we learn with Marissa too is um like that whole thing about anxiety, because everybody's anxious these days. It's like a huge thing in our culture. Everybody has anxiety. And if you can then recognize that feeling anxious or nervous is an identical physical sensation to being excited about something, to the point where you're enthusiastic, you're looking forward to, not dreading, but it's that same physical sense in the body, that jittery, butterflies, whatever. And so if you can then identify that as, no, I'm not anxious, I'm excited. I'm not dreading it. I look forward to it. And maybe looking forward to it is even a big word to use. Maybe you're just looking forward to getting it over with.
Mhm.
And that's fine too. But that's the beginning, right? So if you can rename that physical feeling in the body, it's not anxiety, it's excitement. It's not dread, it's looking forward to. And just calling it different names, and then shifting the way you think about it into a whole different,
Yeah.
then you experience it in a very different way, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, as she says, it's the words and pictures. So choose a better image,
Right.
because we feel like, oh, I'm going to have control if I focus on the worst case scenario, or what if this happens? What if that happens? And it's like, okay, you're also choosing to focus on that. And don't get me wrong, I've dealt with major anxiety in my life, and I catch myself still today. I'm like, oh, okay, Emma, you're focusing on this because you're trying to protect yourself, because it's going to give you this sense of control. And the
Mm,
most beautiful thing, and I tell myself this every day, is I have no control. All I have control over is me, right? And so
right.
if I can catch that thought or catch that image and replace it, well, that feels a lot better.
Well,
That
there's
feels
no sense in trying to control things you don't have control of.
exactly.
And the only thing you truly have control of is your own thoughts. So
Yeah.
let's reframe the shit out of that, right? And if you change the way you think about something, then it changes your experience completely.
Yep.
And then you can control to that degree, okay, so I switched the way I'm thinking about it. I'm renaming this. I'm feeling grateful rather than, whatever. And then it begins to shift your reality. And so those positive thoughts lead to positive experiences, and more positive experiences lead to even more positive experiences. And
Exactly.
it just snowballs from there.
Exactly. And to me, it all begins with awareness, like that's what I love about RTT is we don't always realize what our blocks are, why they're there. We're just so used
Mhm.
to them. This is just how I am. This is just with my relationship style or my this or my that. And it's like, no, actually, it doesn't have to be. We actually can go back and
Yeah.
understand and release it and reframe it and build in a new story. And what I love, it's like you don't have to go back to therapy for months and years. We actually can like do it in a session.
Right. And if you make up a story about something that never even happened in your life, and if you tell that story to somebody over and over again, your brain actually internalizes that. And then you can't even remember, wait, did I make that up or was it actually real? And then pretty soon you remember it as if it was real.
Exactly. Exactly. I know
So
the
use
brain is
that power for good rather than evil, right? So you're not a pathological liar making up crazy crap like, my narcissistic abuse perpetrators over here. You're using it for good rather than evil. So reframe that, make it into a beautiful story that you tell yourself about your reality, and then pretty soon it is real.
yeah, I know.
You know?
And I think what I often find with people is that they're almost afraid of their own power. And I've gone on this journey where I'm like, oh, because I used to be, I mean, stuck in victim mode. I've overcome depression and anxiety. And it was my story. I was the depressed girl. That was my identity.
You're so
And
sick. Yeah.
yeah, then there was a payoff because I also got attention in that way. And this was years ago now. And I had to say, wait, I don't want attention in this way. I don't
Yeah.
want to be a someone anymore. I actually really want to work through this, and so dedicated to that and knowing like, oh, I can change my identity. I can change my story. And it's tricky because people from your past want to keep you in a certain identity. And to me, again, self-worth, empowerment, self-love is saying, I know who I am and I can change it. If you don't want to
Right.
come along for the ride, then maybe you're not part of my life anymore. And I
Well,
wish you would.
that's the thing, we are growing and moving, and we're not a stagnant target, right? So ideally, you want to grow and change and become this bigger, better person throughout your life. And your interests change, your behaviors change. Well, you're the same person, obviously, but you evolve, and that's natural. Everybody should, as you learn, you experience, then you evolve. And if somebody doesn't, they resent you for changing, or they don't like that you've changed, well, that's not really your problem. That's on them, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So they're like, well, this is me. This is what I'm interested in, and this is what I do. So
And if people don't want you to change or want what's best for you, they probably weren't your people to begin with.
that's right. That's right. I hear this a lot with, my clients because they're abused. And then as they recover, then they start recognizing other abusive, toxic people in their friend circle, their family. And then we start learning that we need to cut people off. And then you realize that if somebody is going to support a person that abused you, and it certainly was my reality, when I recognized that after I was married for a very long time, you have a lot of mutual friends, right? And for a lot of reasons, I needed to cut ties with an awful lot of people because they refused to stop being his friend. And that's fine. I can't control who somebody chooses to be friends with. But if I tell you that someone had done all of these things to me, and you still choose to be his friend, then that means you never really were my friend to begin with. And so we practice this with my abuse clients a lot, and it's super painful when you really recognize it. But, and the same thing happens because they're also growing, evolving, becoming this bigger, stronger, better person through this healing journey. And it's more important to know who is and is not really truly your friend, who truly has your back, who's your ride or die, who's your thick and thin. And isn't it better to have one or two or three of those people who, doesn't matter what's happening, you can call them in the middle of the night and go, I need to kill somebody. And they'll go, great, I'll bring the shovel. I mean, these are the kind of people you want as friends, right? Not that I'm suggesting anybody should, kill somebody in the middle. But,
yeah.
But you know what I mean? And these are the people that are actually your friends. Those people that would continue to support a person who abused you, they never were your friends to begin with, and you don't need them. And I'll have them practice. I'm like, imagine this person's before you and they've just told you they refuse to stop being friends with this man that did this thing to you. And then we'll actually act that out, like a little acting. I do too. It's like, and you get to say, fuck you.
Yeah.
And, just get rid of them. You're dead to me. You're gone. And that's so liberating to an abuse victim, to be able to recognize somebody doesn't have their back and to just, you're out, you're gone.
And to get, like, I love it, like that fuck you therapy, get that out, get that energy out, and then say, bye-bye, I don't need that anymore.
Bye. Have a nice life. It's been nice knowing you.
Yeah.
And just be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, Emma, I'm going to have to cut this off because I do have to go to see a client here in a minute. So it's been a beautiful conversation, and I enjoyed very much chatting with you today and getting to know you a little bit. And I wish you all the very best in your practice.
Thank you. Thank you. You as well. No, this has been lovely. I love these conversations.
All right. So it's been a great day. Thanks for joining us today.